to the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show with Corey and Justin. Here they are, the Fourth and Long Fantasy Brothers.
Welcome to episode 8 of the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. My name is Corey, and I am here with my actual brother, Justin.
Hello, this is Justin.
Episode 8, here we come. Justin, how are you?
I'm good, man. Not a lot of news NFL wise over the last week. Just getting closer and closer to really the season at this point. I mean, it's crazy to think we're already in early to mid July, and we're just about 6 weeks away from the start of the season. It's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it given the situation we're in sort of nationwide. Now, Justin, you and I are stationed in Connecticut, and what we're experiencing right now is much different than what the rest of the world is. Actually, what we're experiencing right now, or what the rest of the world is experiencing right now, is very similar to what we had going on a couple months ago when the numbers were climbing and all that. So I guess you and I would just want to sort of reach out and say, hey, everyone, be safe, stay inside. Wear a mask, and we'll get through this hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, man. Stay inside, stay safe, wear a mask, be well.
Well, like you said, not a whole lot of news, so let's get to it.
On today's show,
Justin, today we're talking about our 2020 fantasy favorites. Each of us will be making a list of the 5 players we believe we will own across most or all of our fantasy leagues.
So, Corey, for today's episode, I'm assuming we'll go back and forth and sort of count down 5 to 1 who we think we're going to own this year.
You got it. And really the basis for this is pretty simple. So it's just 5 guys we are higher on than maybe the rest of the fantasy community as a whole.
Yeah, man, that sounds great. And since this is more of a general list here for this episode, I'm assuming the order we can go in is from guys we'll probably have on most teams to guys we'll definitely have on most teams.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That sounds good to me. And I'll get us started, Justin. My number 5 guy I'll probably own this year is James White. Now, year in and year out, we see White get taken too high because of 3 to 4 weeks of excellent production in the fantasy year. James White's value seems to have gone completely away with Tom Brady for some, but I still like what he offers in this offense. Sony Michel isn't looking to be the passing threat he was supposed to be when he was drafted. We've seen Sony try and catch passes. It's just not a pretty thing, unfortunately. I think it's more in his head than anything right now, and I don't know if he'll be able to shake it. And Rex Burkhead, he often struggles to stay on the field despite the fact that the Patriots really want him to be a part of the game plan. So I can easily see a scenario here where, to everyone's surprise, White regains that PPR RB2 value if all breaks right for him. Now, whether it's Newton or whether it's Stidham, I feel like White can be that 75-plus catch guy with an intriguing amount of touchdown upside. Now, more realistically, he's going to be a flex value for you, but that is worth it. He's currently going lower than we've ever seen in the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, man, seriously, the value is there for James White this year. He's currently ranked as running back 42 on Fantasy Pros ECR. That's crazy. And, the Patriots backfield is a bit of a crowded mess if you really kind of look at it holistically. I mean, you've got Sony Michel, coming in his 3rd season here with the Pats. You've got James White, the kind of de facto pass catcher. And then you've got the second-year player in Damian Harris out of Alabama coming in who had a lot of comps to Mark Ingram coming out of Bama last year. And then don't forget about Rex Burkhead, you already mentioned.
Yeah, listen, Brandon Bolden too, Justin, right? Don't forget about him.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Brandon Bolden as well. I mean, the nice thing that James White has going for him is he's definitely the clear pass catching option for the Pats. And I agree, man. I think he's a prime late round running back target, especially in PPR formats. If I find myself loading up on wide receivers and PPR leagues this year, I could see James White being a startable and very friendly RB2 in PPR every single week.
Yeah, man, I agree. That's why I definitely think he's someone who's probably going to be on my fantasy teams this year. Justin, who you got for your number 5 guy you will probably own this year?
So my number 5 is going to be Mecole Hardman, wide receiver from the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Corey, I've dropped my Hardman takes on a couple other shows that we've had previously, and I'm high on him. He's currently the number 52 wide receiver on the Fantasy Pros ECR. And honestly, he's right now in my top 40, which seems crazy for a second-year player in a relatively crowded offense. Mecole Hardman and Patrick Mahomes have a connection, man. Patrick Mahomes had 153.9 passer rating from Mahomes last year. Mahomes ain't going anywhere either now that he signed with the Chiefs for the next decade, even more, 12 years now at this point. And Hardman, at the minimum, will be able to grow with Patrick Mahomes over the next 3 years, if not more. Now, Mecole Hardman has all the traits you look for if you're looking for a great football player. He's got speed for days. He's got route running ability. And one of the nice things that we saw from him last year was the first year production that he put on the plate. I mean, he had 20 yards per catch. That's just crazy, 20 yards a catch, and then 6 touchdowns in very limited action. I talked previously about how the Chiefs are looking to add someone to take on return duties, which was one of Mecole's assignments from last year. If that's in fact the case, it's going to really afford Hardman some more meaningful snaps on the offensive side. I think he's ahead of right now Sammy Watkins on the depth chart, at least from my perspective. I could see a serious second-year leap from Mecole Hardman this year. If you're looking at Patrick Mahomes, if he's going to be throwing for 5,000 yards this year, which is well within the realm of possibility, I see 1,000 of those yards going to Mecole Hardman. I see 1,000-yard ceiling this year for this guy. Mecole is going to be the last pick in every single draft that I have this year, and I'll be laughing at my competitors as he becomes a weekly wide receiver 2 in Kansas City.
That's a good start, Justin. Look, I'm not as optimistic with him. I feel like he had a chance a little bit last year with Tyreek going down with that suspension, and he maybe didn't fully take it on. But and with that being said, I see too much of a similar role from last year when Tyreek was in play, which will only result in a few games. I think he'll be more of a weak winner, but that'll also make him a bit of a weak loser here. But you can't understate the value of a second-year leap from Hardman, right, Justin?
Yeah, man, as my last pick in my draft, I'm going to take the upside. I mean, when you're looking at players that are ranked around him, I see the most upside in Hardman this year. I'll take it.
Good point, Justin. Good point. So my number 4 player that I'll probably own is Mark Ingram. Dobbins' talent is really intriguing, but there's enough room in this Baltimore world for Ingram, Dobbins, and another guy to have enough work. Ingram would often shoot out of a cannon last year and would eventually stop playing later in the game. I see more of a consistent 50-50 split between Ingram and Dobbins this year, and I see no reason why Ingram wouldn't at least initially lead that pairing. Ingram is just barely squeaking into the top 50 in the expert consensus right now, and that really surprises me. I'll be taking a lot of Ingram this year. He seems to be the uncool pick, and that's when I like to pounce on the talent that I like.
Yeah, we talked a lot about how you want to invest in players that are, valued a little lower than where they've previously been. Don't get me wrong, man. Ingram's been a really solid player for years now. He did see a pretty significant spike in receiving touchdowns last year. He's only had 10 career receiving touchdowns, and he's been in the league for a little while. 5 of those 10 came just last year. I think if you take those away, I think that's really what to expect this year. I see 1,000 yards rushing and anywhere from 7 to maybe 8 or 9 touchdowns, which are well within reach. All right, so my number 4, I'm going to go with wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders from the New Orleans Saints. I talked about him on our last week's episode where we went through our NFC team-by-team MVP, LVP sleeper, and Sanders was my sleeper for the New Orleans Saints. Go watch the tape. I think this guy still has it. This does go against my familiarity scale a bit, but I'm going to trust the veteran on the high-powered offense. The Saints have been searching and really searching for that true number 2 wide receiver for the last few years. Hello, Ted Ginn. Hello, Traquan Smith, right? This guy overcame the Achilles injury last year. I think he's got another year, maybe 2 in him. Watch the tape, man. Like I said earlier, he hasn't really lost a step. He had a 68% catch rate in 2019 and a 72% catch rate in 2018. This dude is still good. He's currently the number 43 wide receiver in the Fantasy Pros ECR. I have him inside my top 35. I think 75 catches plus 1,000 yards are well within reach. I'm going to take the bargain and invest in the veteran in the Drew Brees offense.
So, Justin, people will cite numbers as why Sanders shouldn't be picked. He apparently, quote unquote, got worse when he moved to San Fran. Yet I've heard very few people mention how much of a run-heavy scheme that was last year, right?
Exactly.
So Sanders still looks good to me, Justin. And that will lead into my number 3 pick, which is my only quarterback on the list, and that's Aaron Rodgers. Now, look, banking on weapons around a guy can be a bad fantasy move. For example, the people who are saying, look, I don't love Dak, but look at his weapons are the same people saying, I know Drew Lock has weapons this year, but I just don't love the talent. The point is that you can make an argument for whatever you want, but the truth is Rodgers still has it. The arm talent is still phenomenal, and I'm betting that the Aaron Jones in the red zone all the time trend doesn't keep up like it did last year. Offensive weapons should emerge, even if nothing sticks out right now. And remember, Rodgers has a chip on his shoulder, similar to Brady's mindset when Jimmy G was drafted in New England. Rodgers is going to prove stubborn in holding off the Jordan Love era in Green Bay.
The arm talent is still there, and Rodgers has offered the lowest interception percentage in the NFL over the last few years. If some of those 19 touchdowns, to your point, Corey, that Jones had last year turn into short touchdowns from Aaron Rodgers at the goal line, he's a top 5 quarterback. Book it.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to go into my number 3 guy here. My number 3 guy is going to be one of my favorite players in the NFL, and that is going to be running back from the Washington Redskins, Derrius Guice. Guice is currently ranked as the number 31 running back on the Fantasy Pros ECR. Full disclosure, I understand the risk with Guice, right? The guy has played only 5 total NFL games in 2 injury-riddled seasons. On top of that, he has one of the most crowded running back rooms in football. It sounds like I'm building a case against Guice right now, right? I mean, that's really what it sounds like. But we have to remember a couple things. Guice, who is still only 23 years old at this point, he was an ultra-productive back in his college days. He ripped apart the SEC. I remember when he came into the league, there was actually a debate, even if just for a moment, that he was just as talented, if not more talented, than Saquon Barkley. Crazy how different their NFL careers have panned out here. Go watch the tape, man. Guice is an uber-talented bruiser capable of playing on all 3 downs. He excels in pass blocking. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. And I love that stiff arm, baby. Oh, man. Would you be at all surprised if Guice was a top 10 running back come season's end? I wouldn't. He's my favorite late-round running back. I think he has top 5 upside this year.
You like Guice, Justin, here, and I'm going to try and put you on the spot. Let's play contrarian here, okay? So you're acknowledging the talent, and I'm in agreement. You're also acknowledging the injury concerns. But can you, just to play the other side here and show the listeners that you're not completely biased, can you project how this goes wrong aside from injury? Is there anything that you think in your mind could potentially lead to Guice not being that top 10 running back if he does stay healthy? What could go wrong in Washington?
Yeah, man. I mean, in a perfect world, right? He kind of lives up to that hype and he becomes that top 10 running back that he's supposed to become. Honestly, though, I could see a world where we've got a new coaching staff in place, right? You've got Ron Rivera coming in. You've got a new offensive scheme. It's possible that Guice just doesn't take that role and he doesn't become the coach's favorite in terms of that running back room. And I mean, you look at the guys that Rivera's brought in over the last couple months. I mean, he's brought in a lot of guys to compete with both Adrian Peterson, Bryce Love, and Derrius Guice, who are carryovers from the previous year. Is there a world where I could see a guy like Antonio Gibson coming in and playing that bell cow role? Sure, it could happen, but I'm going to go with the guy that I trust the talent. I've seen the production on tape in the NFL, even if it's been limited. I'm going to go with Guice, man.
Yeah, so you got it right there. I mean, I think to sum up what you just said right there very nicely is it's a crowded backfield, and maybe with the new coaching staff coming in, maybe he just doesn't embrace the role that he could potentially be given. But I like that you're planting your flag on talent. That's really where it should be going. Now, Justin, my only wide receiver comes in here, and I would say Thielen, given how high he's ranked for me. But honestly, I still think I'll be drafting running backs when that time comes. A wide receiver I do think I'll own across the board is, and this might come as a surprise, but Jamison Crowder. Now, look, I'm planning this as my 2 because I just don't see myself letting this guy fall to anyone else. I'm assuming the awful Jets offense will improve slightly, and I see Crowder as a major beneficiary to this. Let's not forget that Crowder was the most productive player in that abysmal offense last year. So people writing him off as anything but the guy that would benefit the most from an improved offense doesn't jive with me. He led the team in receptions, touchdowns, and yards. And while none of it was jaw-dropping, I'm assuming the tide rising even a little lifts him up. Darnold will need that over-the-middle talent as he continues to develop, which will result in Crowder being a very safe and productive PPR wide receiver 2 or 3 for a team. In leagues where you can, wait for this guy and then fire him up as a potential flex in your lineup. I see weeks where he disappoints, right? Everyone disappoints in fantasy, but at an acceptable level. He'll be spending most of the season giving you consistent games and will be able to keep your team afloat with an Edelman-like stability.
Crowder could end up being a really solid wide receiver 2 in PPR formats. I could see that. Brashad Perriman coming in, the free agent addition. He should play the Robbie Anderson down the field role. And I honestly don't expect much from the rookie Denzel Mims in year one. I think Crowder could be a 100-catch guy, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I agree. And Justin, that leads into another wide receiver, your number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 is going to be wide receiver from the Houston Texans, Brandin Cooks. Now, a March trade brought Brandin Cooks to the Texans after DeAndre Hopkins was traded to Arizona. This is Cook's 4th team in 5 years. That's one of the things I can't really figure out with Cooks, man. I mean, what's going on with that? I mean, that's a lot of teams for a guy that's as talented as Cooks. Last year, I think, was a bit of an anomaly in terms of his production. It really dropped off. He took a back seat to Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods with the Rams last year. One of the things to remember, though, is that Cooks has finished inside the top 15 4 times in his 6 years in the league. He's topped 100 targets in 4 of the last 5 years. I like that. Cooks will have a chance to be the top dog in Houston with Nuke out of the picture and the oft-injured Will Fuller. I'm also not scared of Randall Cobb. I think that guy is over the hill, past his expiration, as I like to say. I think, man, that Cooks really has some upside here in the Houston offense. He's currently ranked as the wide receiver 36. And in my mind, he is a back-end wide receiver too with upside for more. Now, if he proves to dominate the Texans in targets and receptions, I think he's going to be a really solid every week fantasy starter for your wide receiver room on your team.
Justin, I recently moved on from Cooks, as you know, in a keeper league format where I was stacked at receiver. But make no mistake, I like the Cooks value this year. I hope the rest of the community keeps silent on him like they have, because the talent, the role, and the quarterback are all there for him this year. It's just the health that's the concern. All that's left for me is my number 1, and this should come as no surprise. We've dropped little hints at it. Now I'm going to actually get to dive deep, and that is my number 1 running back from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Ronald Jones. Now, 2 years ago, this player was seen as being incredibly talented. A rough rookie year on a team that didn't know whether it was coming or going forced him to be written off by many. But I didn't write him off. I still saw potential, and I saw much more than that this year. Look, there's a dangerous combination of power, speed, shiftiness, and lateral movement to his game. He's not afraid of tacklers, and he has ability to shake defenders. Vaughn isn't nothing, but he is far less than people are making him out to be. Rojo is a star waiting to come into this job, and I see it happening this year. I'm planting my flag, and I'm holding the line with this guy. Don't underestimate how important it is to have a Tom Brady offense for a running game. It is the part of the offense that needs repetition and a lack of volatility. The Jameis all-in-one play offense is gone. I dare say that Ronald Jones is the most talented running back Brady has had run behind him since the days of Corey Dillon in New England. Get him now, or you'll regret it come December.
Corey, I feel like between you and I, we're both planting our flags really in guys that are ranked right around that RB30 mark that have really great upside in both Geis and Jones. And I'll play the contrarian here like you did for me. What can go wrong for Rojo outside of injury?
So I'm gonna go very similar to what you said, I guess, with Geis, and I'm gonna say nothing talent-wise in my mind. I don't foresee a scenario where Jones can't keep the job away from Vaughn or Ogunbowale based on what he has to offer. The only thing I can foresee is a situation where Jones has some serious mental errors in the first few games, and Arians only trusts him in a committee-type role because of that. Something like dangerous misblocking assignments or fumbles. But look, I do believe we're looking at the calm before the fantasy storm with him. And when he explodes, it'll take a lot of people by surprise.
Rojo is some of the sneakiest upside of all the late round running backs. He's very similar to Geis, like we talked about. People forget, man, Rojo's younger than Keyshawn Vaughn. How crazy is that?
I know, it is crazy.
Another year of development, I think, for Rojo in this system, like you said. I think it will afford Rojo another jump in his 3rd season.
Yeah, so that's it, Justin. We have made it. You had Rojo as my number 1. Who is your number 1 player that you think you're going to be owning across all of your leagues?
So I'm going to go with another running back here, and this is a guy that I've been, as I say, I've been banging the drum on him for some time now, and that is David Montgomery, running back for the Chicago Bears. He's currently ranked as the running back 23, and I think that's Monty's floor, to be honest with you. He collected a hefty 267 touches, and he saw the 4th most carries inside the 5-yard line amongst running backs in 2019. Now, yes, I get it. He will lose some passing game work to Tariq Cohen, but honestly, there's no one else on this Bears roster. Montgomery, in my mind, is a lock for anywhere from 275 to 300 touches in his second year with the Bears. And as we know, man, opportunity in fantasy trumps all. Now, Montgomery may not be the flashiest or the fastest of runners, right? But he has elite contact balance, and the ability to break tackles is something I haven't seen in some time at this point. You watch the film on Montgomery and you just see the potential, right? Not only that, but and I know this doesn't really count for fantasy all that much, but the dude is just a high character guy. He's a former captain at his alma mater, Iowa State. Are we really going to write this guy off after just one season playing in one of the most dysfunctional and inefficient offenses in the NFL? Don't get me started on Matt Nagy's play calling, right? But I can recall a time, man, when people were even questioning guys like Le'Veon Bell and even Christian McCaffrey's status as a runner in the NFL after their rookie seasons where they both averaged a putrid 3.5 yards per carry. How'd that turn out, right? I mean, I'm not saying that Monty is Le'Veon Bell or Christian McCaffrey. My point is, though, we can't judge him off after one season, right? Take the value and enjoy a rock-solid running back 2 in 2020.
So Justin and I are both expecting some ranked RB3s to potentially vault into that upper tier of running backs. Don't tell us we're wrong until the season is done. Well, all right, Justin, that does it for this week's episode. Next week, we're talking Dynasty, so tune in for that. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell. Download, follow, like, comment, whatever you have to do to show some support. I'm Corey.
And I'm Justin.
And this has been the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. See you next time.
Royalty-free music courtesy of Ben Sound. The views and opinions expressed on today's episode are that of the Fourth and Long Fantasy Football Show. Remember to like and subscribe.